7 shocking truths about the Trinity that no one talks about. Discover the answers. Nights in the small town of Alder Creek were usually peaceful, until the whispers began. Strange lights flickered in the abandoned church at the edge of town, a place long avoided. Some said they were angelic, while others claimed it was a portal to another world. The stories grew, twisting and turning like the paths that wound away from the town. And tonight, curiosity had drawn 4 teenagers to this very spot, their hearts pounding in their chests like wild drums. It was a chill night in early October, the moon hanging low and bright in the sky. Simon, the bravest of the group, brushed his fingers against the rusty doorknob of the church. "You hear that?" he whispered. A faint sound echoed from inside, a mix of laughter and something raw, something forlorn. It sent shivers racing down their spines. Why would anyone be here at this hour? As they slowly creaked inside, the smell of damp wood and mold hit them like a wall. Shadows danced around them, clinging to the corners like ghosts long forgotten. Julia, her breath quickening, pointed to the old pulpit. The air shimmered above it, swirling like fog. "What is that?" she gasped, her wide eyes mirroring fear and fascination. Then, out of nowhere, a clattering noise echoed, and they froze, adrenaline coursing through their veins. "What was that?" whispered Marcus, clutching Amanda's arm, his grip tightening. They could almost hear their hearts beating in unison. This didn't feel right, but they were too entwined in the mystery to turn back now. "Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect." With the tension wrapped tightly around them, they took a step forward, guided by an urge that felt almost magnetic. The pulpit glowed brighter now, pulsing like a heartbeat. What secrets lay hidden in this church? What truths about the Trinity that went unspoken were waiting just behind that glaring light? As they approached, a deafening silence fell over them, the kind that blankets fear like a thick fog. This was their moment. But suddenly, with a crack, the ground beneath them trembled. A moan ripped through the air, raw and haunting. Was it the church itself giving life to the legends? Or something more sinister? Their eyes locked, breaths catching, hearts racing. What would happen next? Would they dare to unravel the dark mysteries or be consumed by them forever? The pulpit's glow intensified, revealing figures hidden in the shadows. A flicker of movement caught Simon's eye. He squinted, his heart beating faster. "Did you see that?" he muttered, feeling the sweat trickle down his spine. Everyone turned their heads, eyes scanning the church's interiors, where dust motes floated in the moonlight, swirling like spirits. Julia shuddered, whispering, "What if there is someone else here?" Then, out of the shadow's depth, a figure emerged, a boy, clothed in tattered robes, skin pale as the moonlight. He seemed as if he stepped out of a different time, his eyes wide and desperate. "You shouldn't have come," he said, his voice a rasp, brittle like dried leaves. "Who are you?" Amanda's voice trembled, anchored to the fear bubbling inside her. "I'm warning you," he pressed, taking a shaky step closer. "You have to leave now before it's too late." But it was too late for retreat. The pulpit's glow cast eerie patterns on their faces, provoking a surreal clarity that wrapped around them. The boy's words lingered in the air, choking them with urgency. Suddenly, a deep rumble echoed from the church's depths. It was as if the building itself was awakening, groaning under an unseen weight. The walls shook, sending plaster dust tumbling from the ceiling. Amanda gasped, clutching Marcus tighter, both rooted in a mixture of fear and awe. Simon's voice rose above the chaos. "Wait. What do you mean?" He pushed forward, defying the fear gripping them all. Something dark resides here, the boy warned, his eyes flickering toward the pulpit. It wants to claim your souls for eternity. Julia felt the chill creep up her spine. She didn't want to believe him, but a part of her screamed that he was right. The pulpit's light flared abruptly, illuminating ancient symbols carved into the wood, some familiar, others incomprehensible. They glowed ominously, pulsating in rhythm with the building's tremors. "What is happening?" Marcus shouted, glancing between the pulpit and the boy, who stood trembling, as if caught in a storm of dread. The boy raised his arms, invoking a presence they could not see. "You must break the connection. The Trinity, there's an old secret that must never be revealed. One of you is key to stopping it." His words reverberated through the air, thickening the tension like fog. The teenagers exchanged frantic glances, their breathing uneven. "What are we supposed to do?" Julia shouted, her voice cracking under the pressure. The ground shook again, knocking them off balance. The church was alive with noise now, hisses, whispers, laughter that twisted in the air like serpents. The boy's face contorted with fear, and he rasped, "Only the truth will save you." The pulpit exploded with light, and suddenly, time seemed to freeze. Shadows leapt from the corners, spiraling toward them, dark tendrils reaching out. "Run!" screamed Amanda, urgency igniting a spark of bravery in her. They bolted toward the door, the weight of the boy's ominous warning trailing behind them like smoke. But as they raced for safety, the boy's frantic voice echoed, "You can't escape what you're about to uncover." With every ounce of adrenaline surging through them, they burst from the church, hearts pounding wildly. The moon hung above them, casting a cold glow on the chaos they'd left behind. Then, a loud crash erupted from the church, shaking the ground, and they turned, horrified to see the pulpit collapse in on itself with a violent roar. Had they truly escaped? And what of the truths that lay hidden in the remnants of the fallen pulpit? As they caught their breath, a chilling realization took hold. Darkness lingered in Alder Creek, waiting patiently. The dark secrets were now entangled with their destinies. They had merely scratched the surface. What awaited them next? Were they equipped to face the truths now dawning on the horizon? The air hung thick with uncertainty as they stumbled away from the church, breathless and wide-eyed. Each gust of wind felt like icy fingers brushing their skin, heightening their panic. They huddled together, shadows of fear looming large. "Did you see that?" Julia's voice was a mere whisper. "What if he was right? What if we don't know anything?" Amanda interrupted, her voice rising, infused with desperation. "We can't just take the word of a kid in a ghost story." Marcus shook his head. "That wasn't a ghost, it felt real. This place, it's haunted." Simon ran a hand through his hair, searching for sense. "Haunted or not, we need to figure this out. If that boy said one of us is key to what?" Julia spat, frustration leaking through her fear. "The key to getting ourselves killed." Before anyone could respond, a shrill cry echoed from the church. It pierced the night, a dreadful mix of terror and grief that echoed in their chests. The sound beckoned to them, each note soaked in despair. "Do you hear that?" Marcus asked, his face pale, the bravado from a moment ago wavering. "What if something happened in there?" Amanda's eyes darted toward the entrance they had just so narrowly escaped. "No way," Simon argued, stepping back. "We can't go back in there. It's not safe." But Julia's gaze flickered back to the church, where dark shadows danced at the windows. "What if someone else is still in there? We can't just leave them." Stricken by a mix of dread and an odd sense of duty, they exchanged uncertain glances. It was easy to act brave in a group, but faced with the unknown, their spirits quaked. The weight of the boy's warning loomed over them like a heavy shroud. Something dark wanted them back. "Amanda, maybe you should lead," Simon proposed, but the look on her face told him she wasn't up for that. "Why me?" she retorted, her breath shallow, anxiety coursing through her as the sound from the church grew louder, a cry followed by a chilling silence, as if something had swallowed the air. Julia took a step forward. If we don't go back, we might regret it forever. Finally, nodding in agreement, the urgency of a practical plan began to form. We all go together, Simon stated, mustering every bit of courage he could gather. We can't split up. With hesitant hearts, they crept toward the door. The moon cast long shadows against the stone, illuminating the cracks in the old wood. The truth of their situation weighed on them, pushing against their resolve. Once inside, the pungent smell of damp and decay hit them hard. Julia clutched Simon's arm, and he tightened his grip. The air felt alive, swirling with unseen energy. The pulpit's remnants lay strewn, ominously silent now. Then, from somewhere deep in the building, came a whisper, a voice soft like silk but sharp with urgency. Find the answer, find the Trinity. Did you hear that? Marcus blurted, eyes wide, his heart racing. Someone's here, we should leave. Amanda said through clenched teeth, but it was too late. The ground trembled beneath them as the pulpit's collapse settled further into the floor. It left a void that pulsed with dark energy. Julia's voice trembled as she peered deeper into the shadows creeping at the edges. What does it mean, the Trinity? What are we supposed to look for? Every heartbeat echoed painfully loud. The uncertainty churned in their stomachs, and yet curiosity tugged at them, urging them deeper into the haunted past of Alder Creek. The air rippled, as if answering her, growing thick with a growing whisper. In the darkness, you will find the truth. As they exchanged fearful glances, they were struck by a shared thought. They had come seeking adventure, but what if they had stumbled into something far more sinister? Moments stretched as the figure of the boy haunted their minds, and they could almost feel his urgency pulling them forward. Are we really ready for this? Simon asked, glaring into the darkness ahead, shrouded by dread and curiosity. No turning back now. But in the depths of that darkness, what awaited them? The answer could change everything. As they stood in the hollow chamber of the church, the darkness seemed to close in around them, alive and breathing. Julia's heart raced, its rhythm matching the pulse of anxiety thrumming in the air. We can't just stand here, she urged, voice a mix of fear and a burgeoning resolve. We need to ask, we need to know. Marcus squinted, looking past the moonlight filtering through broken stained glass. Ask what? There's nothing but shadows. But even as he spoke, the whisper from earlier lingered like a haunting melody, urging them to move. Find the Trinity, it echoed softly in Julia's ear as she took an unsteady step forward, inching closer to what lay ahead. Simon exchanged glances with Amanda, need visible in his eyes. If we're really going to do this, he swallowed hard, his face pale. Then we should stick together. They formed a tight circle, the act of solidarity slightly pushing away their fears. Leading with a flashlight that flickered like a weak heartbeat, Julia stepped toward a sagging door that led deeper into the building. The creaking groan of the hinges resonated, reflecting their collective dread. When they entered the adjacent room, a sudden gust of wind slammed the door shut behind them, sending chills racing down their spines. We can't go back, Amanda whispered, breath hitching. The thought of being trapped made the air feel even heavier. Is this the answer we're looking for? Marcus called out into the thick darkness, the question echoing like a sin against the weight of the silence. Why would a kid in a ghost story be so interested in some Trinity? No answer returned. But the atmosphere shifted again, the shadows twisting and congealing. Julia felt a pull, as if something alive within those shrouded corners wanted her. It was a strange mix of fear and allure that beckoned her forward. Wait, Simon suddenly said, eyeing the far wall where dust-laden shelves teetered precariously. Look. He pointed, and they leaned in closer, their breaths catching as they recognized a tableau of dusty old books. On the center shelf, a sizable tome sat, its title faded but provocative, Sacred Secrets of the Lost Trinity. Do you think it could help? Amanda asked, her voice cracking, trembling. Marcus reached out but hesitated, the weight of their choices colliding with dread. Reading that might awaken whatever is hidden in this place. Are we ready for that? Julia could feel desperation creeping into her thoughts. What if it holds the answers? We have to know what's really going on. Look around, Simon said softly yet firmly. The atmosphere is thickening, it doesn't feel right. Before anyone could voice their fears, a loud crash pierced the heavy silence, making them flinch backward. The sound came from above, and dust rained down in soft, cloudy particles. It's like the building is collapsing around us, Marcus muttered, anxiety thick in his tone. Let us grab the book and leave. Julia urged, panic rising like bile in her throat. With a shaking hand, she reached for the ancient tome. As her fingers brushed its cover, the rattling silence shattered again, this time with a low rumble. A voice, deep and resonant, came crashing through the thick darkness. You dare disturb the resting past. They froze, terror slicing through them like ice. It felt as if the very walls were breathing, too, in an unsettling rhythm. Who is there? Julia gasped, her voice trembling as she clutched the book tighter, the weight of it feeling like an anchor and a curse. The voice rumbled again, as if shaking the very foundation. You seek the answer, but beware of the darkness you awaken. Realization crashed over them like a tidal wave. This wasn't just an adventure, it was a summoning, and they had no idea what or who they were about to face. Marcus's skin prickled, nervous energy buzzing around him. We're in over our heads. With a frenzied grip on the book, Julia turned to her friends, eyes wide. We have to decide. Are we here to uncover the truth or to run away? The shadows loomed larger, and the choice felt more daunting than ever as the room began to swirl with an unsettling energy. What dark secrets waited to be uncovered? Would they find clarity, or would they unleash horrors beyond their comprehension? In that heartbeat of uncertainty, the haunting question lingered, echoing ominously. Were they truly prepared for the darkness that was about to set loose? The air crackled with tension as the voice faded, leaving a spectral silence that felt loaded with meaning. Julia's heart pounded in her chest, echoing in her ears. She could see doubt flickering in the eyes of her friends, each of them grappling with the weight of what they just heard. What do we do? Amanda's voice trembled, a feather caught in a hurricane. Hold on, Marcus whispered, his gaze darting around the room as if expecting a figure to emerge from the shadows. We don't even know what we're dealing with. Julia's fingers had locked around the book, an odd sense of urgency tingling through her limbs. Every instinct screamed at her to throw it aside, to run. But the other half of her, fueled by an insatiable curiosity, wanted nothing more than to pry open its secrets. We can't just leave it here. A gust of wind blasted through an unseen crack, sending a shiver racing down Julia's spine. The shadows seemed to pulse and throb like a living thing, and she felt a deep dread creeping into her bones. Simon clutched Amanda's arm, the fear in his eyes reflecting the overarching question, what had they disturbed? We need a plan, he said, voice hoarse. We find the answers. That's the only way to break whatever is happening here, Julia insisted, her voice cutting through the murky air like a knife. She found a sudden determination flooding her as the weight of the book reinvigorated her purpose. As they stood together, a flicker of light illuminated the far corner, revealing more than dusty shelves. A jagged outline of a staircase spiraled upwards, swallowed by a restless darkness. Look! Simon pointed, breathless. That might lead to whatever this place is hiding. Marcus glanced at the staircase with suspicion. Or it might lead us into more danger, he cautioned. But Julia could already feel the pull, the lure of the unknown, the promise of answers lingering just out of reach. Then we go up. Together, she answered firmly, resolute. The minute flicker of bravery pushed them forward, the promise of uncovering what had been lost. With the flashlight leading the way, they climbed the creaky stairs, every step resonating like a heartbeat in the heavy silence. The air grew colder, as if chilling hands gripped at them. Julia stole glances at her friends, Simon's jaw was clenched, and Amanda's eyes darted nervously. Only Marcus seemed to conceal true fear behind a mask of anger. What is the Trinity? Julia asked, breaking the taut silence. What if it's just a myth? Maybe that's why the voice warned us, Amanda replied, glancing back, her expression raw with fear. It senses our confusion. We invite danger with each question we ask. We invite answers, too, Julia countered, driving her point home as they reached the top step, illuminated by a flickering bulb above them. The door at the top was ancient, covered in carvings that twisted and curled, threatening to tell stories of their own. As Julia hesitated, her hand hovering above the handle, every instinct urged her to turn back. Ice gripped her spine, a chilling reminder of the voice's warning. But it was too late. She pushed the door open, revealing a room that seemed frozen in time. Cobwebs hung like veils, and an altar lay at its center, draped in what looked like the tattered remnants of a once grand cloth. The air buzzed, filled with an electric current that sent jolts through her limbs. Someone gasped, pulling Julia's attention back to her friends. Their faces had turned pale, eyes wide as they took in the sight before them. "You might have awoken something else," Marcus breathed, his voice barely a whisper. At that moment, a crash echoed from the back of the room, followed by an unnatural howl that consumed the silence. Julia and her friends exchanged terrified glances, the reality tightening like a noose around their throats. "Time to run," Amanda whispered, her breath quickening, panic rising, but Julia could feel it then, the undeniable tug of purpose. She needed to know what the Trinity held. Would they falter in fear or step forward into the unknown? Another crash resonated, more violent. And suddenly, shadows swirled and coalesced, rushing toward them like a dark wave. "Get ready!" Julia shouted, heart racing, as they stood poised on the brink of an ancient truth. As they prepared for what might come next, one thought tangled in the back of Julia's mind: were they prepared to face the truth, even if it meant unleashing chaos? With the darkness advancing, everything they knew hung in the balance, unraveling before them. The shadows crashed toward them, swirling like dark smoke laced with unspoken fears. Julia's heart raced as she gripped the book tighter, its weight an anchor amid the chaos. "We have to move," she urged, stepping forward into the room, where flickering lights danced maniacally over the crumbling altar. Marcus grabbed Simon's arm, pulling him back, as if tethering his courage to the dread that loomed around them. "Don't be stupid, Julia," he shouted, barely heard over the cacophony of crashing sounds. "We need to get out." The howl grew louder, reverberating through the ancient stone walls, sending vibrations through their bones. Amanda's eyes darted to the door, then back to Julia. "What if it's not just a myth? What if it's real? What have we done?" But the thrill of discovery surged through Julia, a fire lit in her gut. "If we leave now, we may never have a chance like this again," she yelled, glancing back at her friends. They looked torn, caught between fight and flight, the struggle playing out in their expressions. "Will you stop being reckless?" Marcus shot back, his voice cracking. "You can't play hero here, Julia. We need to stick together." Yet, amidst the chaos, something deep within urged her forward. The air crackled with energy, urging her to unlock the secrets held by the altar, secrets that could tie them to the very essence of the Trinity. "We've gotten this far," she implored, pushing her fear aside. "What's behind that altar might explain everything. We can't turn back now." As she approached the altar, the floor creaked beneath her, each step sending a ripple through the dark wave that threatened to swallow them. Shadows twisted and shifted, seemingly alive, closing in with sinister anticipation. Julia's breath caught as she reached the torn cloth draped over the altar. With trembling hands, she pulled it back, revealing a cracked, stone surface. Symbols, intricate and foreign, were etched deeply into the stone, glowing faintly in the darkness. The moment her fingers grazed the cold surface, a shock coursed through her. A rush of images flooded her mind. She saw figures, worshippers, seekers gathered around a roaring fire, faces etched with desperation and faith. Whispers of power and sacrifice echoed, swirling in her head, beckoning her to understand. "Julia." Simon's voice trembled, snapping her back as he stepped forward, eyes wide with terror. What did you see?" "I don't know," she gasped, breathless. It's like a memory. They were searching for something powerful. Her heart raced, battered by the weight of what she had just experienced. The altar began to shake violently, and Julia staggered, holding onto its edge. Just then, a piercing scream cut through the chaos, freezing everyone in place. It was Amanda, pointing toward the back of the room where shadows morphed into solid forms, figures emerging from the darkness, their intentions unreadable. "Run!" Marcus yelled, grabbing Amanda's arm, pulling her back towards the staircase. But the figures were advancing, faces obscured but noticeable in their menacing stance. "No!" Julia shouted, stepping between her friends and the dark entities. "We need to confront this." "Confront what? You think they're friendly?" Marcus countered, desperation creeping into his voice. Lightning crackled in the air, brightening the room momentarily, illuminating the carvings on the altar. The symbols pulsed, resonating with a heartbeat that synchronized with her own. There was a connection, a call to action. "Something's not right here," Julia declared, eyes flickering to the swirling shadows. "If we don't face them, we may never escape this place." But just as her certainty built, the shadows lunged forward, and her resolve flickered. "Please." Amanda's voice was laced with panic, caught between fight and flight. Suddenly, the altar emitted a blinding flash, sending pulses of energy rippling through the air, pushing back the advancing darkness. Julia let out a startled cry as she was knocked back, landing on the cold ground. The shadows hesitated, broken for a moment. "What is this?" Simon breathed, his eyes wide as he pointed. Julia's breath hitched in her throat as she realized this was the power of the Trinity awakening, a force unfurling itself amid their doubts and fears. Just then, the vision restructured itself in her mind, revealing a hidden truth that felt monumental. The shadows flickered, then twisted, changing size and shape, as if responding to her realization. It's connected to us." She gasped, the meaning starting to crystallize, but at that moment, a loud throbbing filled the room, drowning her words, vibrating through her skull. The shadows surged forward again, more determined than before, and she could sense the impending chaos rising. As Julia prepared to stand against it, the realization dawned: there might be one last chance to uncover the truth within the Trinity before it was too late. But did they have the courage to seize it, to stand against the darkness that beckoned them? And as the shadows loomed ever closer, encircling them in a tight grip, she could not shake the question: what would become of them if they failed? The shadows knotted tighter, dark tendrils reaching out like ghostly fingers hungry for flesh. Julia felt her heart pound in her chest, each beat echoing the urgency of their situation. "We can't back down now," she shouted, her voice barely piercing through the supernatural howl trembling the walls. Marcus hesitated, his eyes darting between the looming figures and Julia's determined stance. "You really think touching that altar is going to save us?" he barked, his voice strained with panic. "I think it's our only shot." Julia shot back, feeling adrenaline coursing through her veins. Suddenly, the altar throbbed again, its runes glowing brighter as if responding to Julia's fierce intent. A searing light erupted, momentarily illuminating the room and casting grotesque shadows against the stone facade. Those fleeting moments revealed the cloaked figures lurking barely out of reach. Their faces remained shrouded, but the shapes of their bodies twisted in unnatural angles, further igniting Julia's resolve. "Stick together." Simon's voice trembled, but he took a step towards Julia, emboldened by her conviction. "Whatever is happening, we can figure it out." Without warning, an ear-splitting crack rang through the air, and the floor rumbled beneath them, sending fragments of stone skittering. The altar shook violently again, thumping like a heartbeat that threatened to explode. Julia felt the raw energy of the shadows buzzing, penetrating her skin, and she clutched the edges of the altar. Then, as if marking a fatal decision, Julia stepped up, her breath hitching. She could feel the pull of the shadows, their chilling presence like icy winds clawing at her spirit. "I will find out why they're here," she called out, gathering what strength she could. With one swift motion, she pressed her palm against the altar's flickering symbols. A wave of heat surged through her, roots of forgotten knowledge crawling into her mind, unraveling ancient truths. Prophecies unspooled, revelations unfurling. She saw flashes of a past where seekers of light battled the darkness, their fates entwined with the Trinity. "Look!" Amanda screamed as new figures emerged, warriors cloaked in light, standing tall against the advancing shadows. "Maybe they're the ones who can help us." Julia's breath hitched under the weight of the unfolding scene. Those ethereal guardians emanated strength and valor, and as she stared deeper into the spectacle, she sensed the connection binding all five of them: Julia, Marcus, Simon, Amanda, and even those spectral warriors. It was the very essence of the Trinity that pulsed through them, filling the air around them with tangible power. "Julia!" Marcus' voice cut through her trance, urgency rising again as shadows lunged at him, their intentions clear. "Snap out of it!" With a final burst of energy, she grasped the truth: together. "We need to fight together," she yelled, conviction flooding her being. In that moment, the altar exploded with light, the engraved symbols radiating brilliance as the guardian figures stepped forth. A roar thundered through the chamber, smashing against the stone walls as shadows recoiled, shrieking. The dancers of darkness writhed and twisted, retreating momentarily. But instead of relief, a chilling realization crept over Julia. "Something is controlling them," she whispered, her heart pounding in her ears. "Like puppets trapped in this nightmare." The shadows whispered back, a cacophony of sounds weaving through the air, a language she couldn't comprehend. A chill cascaded down her spine. If the darkness was a mere extension of another force, who or what was orchestrating the chaos? "Look!" Amanda pointed at the walls, where ancient inscriptions flared in the altar's light, revealing a map of charted destiny. "We might be part of something bigger." "Bigger how?" Marcus breathed, straining to understand the unfolding horror. But in that instant, the roiling darkness surged once more defined and determined than ever. The lights flickered dangerously, plunging them into half-darkness once more. Julia's voice barely rose above the shattering thunder of the shadows. "We have to find out the core of the Trinity. It's the only thing that can stop this." As the shadows surged forward, darkness clawing and reaching for them, Julia felt her body tense, caught between fear and the need to uncover the truth within the abyss. But she was no longer alone, the guardians surrounded them, shimmering with determination. Was this the moment they would either prevail or plunge into darkness forever? What fate awaited them as they prepared to confront the source of their chaos? The answer lingered just beyond their grasp. The shadows seized the air, swirling like a storm, each fold darkening the corners of the chamber. Julia's heart raced, fueled by desperation and hope mingling together. "We have to move," she shouted, her voice rising over the chaos. Suddenly, a crack split the air again, more violent than before. The ground trembled like a living thing, forcing them to stagger. Beside her, Simon fell, his eyes wide with terror. The glow from the altar pulsed erratically, bathing the room in a flickering light that seemed to mock their attempts at courage. "Get up, Simon!" Amanda yelled, grabbing his arm and pulling him back to his feet. "We can't give in. Not now." But there was something deeper lurking now. Julia could feel it, a presence more malignant than the mere shadows that twisted around them. It seeped into her thoughts, twisting her resolve. Whispers encircled her, sinister and alluring, promising power and knowledge beyond her wildest dreams if she would just surrender. "No!" she gasped, shaking her head as if to clear the cobwebs. She focused on the guardians, their luminescent forms holding faith against the oncoming tide. "We are strong together. Remember who you are." With renewed determination, Julia stepped forward, urging the others to follow her lead. "We need to join our energies. The core of the Trinity lies within us, and it's time to unlock it." Marcus nodded, his fear transforming into defiance. "If we do this, we're all in. No backing down." Simon wiped sweat from his forehead, determination hardening his features. "Let us end this." Side by side, they joined hands, forming a chain of hope amid the chaos. Julia inhaled sharply, feeling the warmth of their collective strength enveloping them. The altar throbbed in response, sensing their unity. Together, Julia whispered, "Let us shine through this darkness." As they focused, the soft whispers of the shadows grew louder, swirling with sinister intent. "Fools," they hissed, chilling Julia's bones. "You cannot escape our grasp. All will fall." But Julia was set. She pushed back against the encroaching darkness, channeling the essences of the guardians. Their radiant light surged, filling her with an energy she had never experienced before. The runes on the altar flared brighter, intertwining with their united aura. "Now!" Julia yelled, drawing on every ounce of power. "Illuminate the truth." With an explosive force, light erupted, enveloping them in a cocoon of brilliance that sliced through the shadows. A deafening roar erupted as the twisted figures contorted in agony and fury, retreating from the cleansing fire. But just when Julia felt they could prevail, a shadow broke through the radiant shield, a figure more defined and monstrous than the rest. It loomed, a dark silhouette with piercing eyes that glinted like shards of ice. An unfamiliar laughter echoed, cruel and mocking. "You think this will save you?" Julia's pulse thundered in her ears as she confronted the entity's gaze. "What are you?" "I am the one who controls them. The puppeteer of fears and fury," it sneered, its voice cold as night. "And you? You're merely pawns in a game far beyond your understanding." Each word dripped with malice, yet it sent an electric wave through Julia's very core. Was this the force behind everything? The keeper of secrets they had yet to uncover, the light she had felt building began to flicker, her will waning under the weight of dread. "No!" she cried. "We will not be your pawns." With a sudden rush, the shadows surged again, fiercer than before, throwing their bonds into chaos. Julia felt the link with her friends weakening as the enveloping darkness clawed at them. "Stand firm!" Marcus shouted, his voice rising over the chaos, yet doubt crept in his tone. "We can't let it win." But as the shadows deepened around them, tightening their grip, Julia felt a sense of impending doom. What if we're just exchanging one form of control for another? Doubt settled heavy in the air as they faced the shadowy figure together. In that instant, Julia realized the dimensions of their battle reached far beyond merely fighting. Darkness. It was a war against being ensnared by the unknown, a struggle to reclaim their agency. Would their combined light be enough to pierce through the gulf of control? Or were they, unwittingly, surrendering to a fate sketched long ago? As the shadows lunged once more, twisting and writhing for their souls, Julia braced herself for the confrontation. She could feel at the pivotal moment standing on the razor's edge between salvation and despair. What new horrors lay ahead when they plunged into the depths of the unknown, facing whatever lay at the core of the Trinity? What secrets awaited them as they dared to challenge the puppeteer itself? The shadows lunged, writhing and twisting, their insidious forms clawing at Julia and her friends. Gritting her teeth, Julia summoned every ounce of determination she could muster. The darkness felt alive. It was hungry, craving the very essence of their souls, and she could almost hear it laughing in triumph as it threw them into chaos. Around her, Amanda's grip on Simon faltered. "We can't break apart," she cried, panic breaking her voice. But the shadows tangled tighter, latching onto their legs like chains, weighing them down physically and mentally. "Focus on the light," Julia shouted, her voice cut sharp through the murky air. She fought against a wave of doubt, her heart racing. Could they truly stand against this growing darkness? Together, we've already pushed back its minions. We can do it again. Remember what we are fighting for. Marcus urged, his voice steady despite the tremors in his hands. It's not just about us. It's about everyone who can't fight this battle. Julia glanced at the flickering glow of the altar, a beacon of hope amid despair. She clung to that allure, drawing strength from it. But then the monstrous figure loomed closer, its eyes cold and calculating. You cling to hope as though it can save you. You know nothing of the real fight at hand. Julia's heart sank. What do you mean? She gasped, throat tight as dread clawed at her insides. The Trinity is a cycle, the creature hissed, its laughter echoing like thunder in the chamber. You are but the latest in a long string of fools who believe they can escape their fate. You think the shadows follow only you? They are here to devour this world, and you are merely the prelude to my true awakening. With that, the shadows surged forth, enveloping the group, filling Julia's vision with darkness. They felt the surge of power so distinctively wrapped around them slip like sand through fingers. In an instant, the bond they had forged started to fade. Fear gripped them, squeezing the air from their lungs. What if we can't fight this? Simon murmured, his voice trembling. It was the first time Julia had heard uncertainty spoken aloud in their ranks, and it shook her to her core. Don't listen to it. Julia snapped, forcing herself to meet Simon's desperate gaze. We've overcome obstacles before. We are stronger than we know. We just need to believe in each other. With a surge of adrenaline, she took a step forward, pulling the others toward the altar with her. The light flared, battling the encroaching shadows for every inch in the oppressive chamber. A surge of warmth enveloped them, bolstering Julia's courage. Yet, beneath it all, a nagging question gnawed at her: what if they were tapping into a power far darker than they realized? As energy pooled within them, the shadowy figure laughed, a sound akin to breaking glass. What you think you wield is nothing but a flicker against the storm. The shadows lashed out, each tendril seeking weakness, each gasp for breath deepening their despair, and in the heartbeat of that moment, doubt seeped back in. Could they truly face this being that claimed to know their fears? Shuddering, Julia felt a crack in her resolve. Was this power worth the risk of losing themselves? Stay focused, Amanda urged, a fierce light kindling in her eyes. What the darkness doesn't understand is that our hope is infinitely stronger than its lies. Bolstered by Amanda's fierce voice, Julia wrapped her fingers tighter around her friends. Together, they merged their willpower, light sparking brighter, pushing the shadows back inch by inch, but as they fought, Julia sensed the shadows swirling, gathering strength on the edges. The creature's laughter rang through her ears, taunting and relentless. It's not over, little light-bearers. You will see the truth soon enough. The rumble of an unseen storm filled the chamber, each pulse of the altar's energy becoming a drumbeat of impending chaos. Just as they thought they would break free, the shadows peeled back once again, revealing more than just darkness. It exposed the fissures in their hearts, the seeds of doubt taking root deep within. A sharp pain cut through Julia's chest as she searched for a way to rally her friends. What if the light? What if the Trinity isn't whole? What if we're missing a crucial piece? An icy chill swept through the air, chilling them to the bone as the shadows tightened their grip once more, dragging them back toward the very heart of the darkness. As Julia's thoughts spiraled, she felt a shatter of electrifying realization there were hidden truths they hadn't yet discovered. In this battle against fear, they need to confront not just the shadowy entity but themselves. What darkness loomed yet undiscovered? What sacrifices would it take to reclaim the light? As the shadows lunged for them once more, reality took hold. What if the answer was buried in the depths of their own fears? The air crackled with tension as Julia braced herself against the oncoming shadows. They were close, too close for comfort. The whispers weaved through the chamber, curling around her like serpents seeking warmth. We have to stand together, Julia cried, fists clenched. This is about more than just us. We're here to uncover the truth. And we won't let fear win. With those words, the shadows hesitated, as if her defiance sent a ripple of doubt through their knowing. Simon, finding his courage, clutched her arm. Together, right? We're stronger as a group. Right. Amanda echoed, the flicker of determination igniting in her eyes. We fight back with everything we have. For everyone who can't fight this battle. The pulsing light of the altar throbbed, brightening as they joined hands, weaving their energies into one living strand of hope. Julia felt warmth flood through her, the feeling of her friend's strength bolstering her resolve, pushing back the tendrils of darkness that wrapped like barbed wire around them. "Now!" Julia shouted, her voice rising powerfully, "let us reveal the truth of the Trinity." Around them, shadows reeled as they called on the light, forming a barrier against the oncoming darkness. Together, they focused their minds, their fears, and their courage, unleashing a wave of brilliance that cascaded across the room. The shadowy figure sneered, but the light cut through its darkness, causing it to falter. "You think you can escape? I will show you the true meaning of despair." In an instant, the shadows surged again, attempting to reclaim their hold. But Julia felt the power of the Trinity swell within them, an ancient force that refused to be extinguished. "Press on!" Marcus shouted, breathing heavily, but now each word was a statement of shared resolve. "We have each other, nothing can take that from us." The altar erupted into a blinding radiance, scattering the darkness, the shadowy figure twisting in fury. "You cannot comprehend what you face. The truth is a curse." As the shadows hesitated again, Julia could feel the truth they sought intertwining with their very essence, the bonds of friendship, their combined hope, and a legacy they hadn't yet fully realized. "Our connection is our strength," she declared, vision locking with the figure swirling before them. Suddenly, the ground twisted, the altar shaking violently, and the chamber echoed with the howling winds of the past. Images surged to life, a montage of pilgrims lost in shadows, battling against despair. Julia could see the prices paid for sacrifices made long ago. The ancient legacies echoing above their heads began to whisper beyond the shadows. "It's right there," she gasped, realization flooding through her. The Trinity is about unity, mental, physical, emotional. There are 3 parts, but we must acknowledge the darkness to make the light truly shine. The shadows recoiled, sensing the truth gripping hold of the teenagers. They roared, a cacophony of anguished echoes threatening to consume their will. But the teenagers pressed ahead, fueled by an undeniable force. In a climactic moment, Julia shouted, "We embrace all parts of ourselves. We acknowledge our fears, and we find strength in our unity." With one final thrust of collective energy, they focused on the light emanating from the altar, channeling every ounce of courage and belief into the pulse of the moment. The room exploded with brilliance, a dazzling spiral of radiance that erupted outward, illuminating their darkest fears and converting them into strength. The shadowy figure screamed, losing its ground against the radiant force sweeping through. Golden tendrils of light surged like vines, wrapping around the darkness, purging it layer by layer until only the figure remained flickering and weak. In that moment, Julia stepped forward, her voice steady against their shared heartbeat. "You are not our enemy. You are a reflection of what we fear. But we choose to be more." With a final push, they expelled the remnants of darkness that had woven themselves into the fabric of their minds. The shadows screeched as they shrank away, the figure shattering like brittle glass until only Julia's words echoed in the residue of chaos, "We choose light." And as the last flicker of darkness dissipated, the shadows fell away to reveal a dazzling room bathed in light, a safe haven, cleansed of fear but rich with potential and uncertain possibility. They collapsed together, breathless and exhilarated, hearts racing, a newfound awareness washing over them. "We did it!" Julia breathed, joy flickering across her face. "We embraced the truth of the Trinity. We faced our fears." Together, Marcus echoed, grinning through his exhaustion. But amidst the revelry, they stared at the walls, now revealed, old symbols glowing faintly, etching the legacy left behind. The air felt lighter, but shadows still lingered at the corners of their minds, reminders that the battle between light and dark was never truly over. As they stepped toward the exit, the weight of secrets hidden in Alder Creek began to fall away, but the understanding remained. They would carry this moment with them, empowered. There were still tales yet untold, and the battle against darkness would persist. But for now, they had shared the light, and together, they walked forward, knowing that like the Trinity, their bonds were unbreakable. The whispers of the past faded, replaced by laughter and shared memories as they moved into the moonlit night. They had found the light within the darkness, and the truth of their unity would guide them forward. But even as they walked away, the echo of the church remained, a reminder that the call of the unknown was ever present, waiting patiently for the next adventure to begin. So now, if you loved this conclusion, you need to subscribe now. Don't let the next exclusive stories slip away. Smash that like button to feed the algorithm and let your voice be heard. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories. What did you think? And don't wait even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this epic conclusion. Your support means everything, and together we can discover more adventures ahead.